So you guys have been doing great research, and it's time to share it with everybody. Looking at the book of Ruth. I know we could go and go and go and go. And this, to me, is the whole purpose of why we teach at the seminary. It's for you to be able to take God's word and study it and learn and meet the Lord. And to do it with other women is wonderful. Okay, so I know that we could have a lot more time, but chapter 1, share with us what y'all have got.
Well, do you want me to talk about the who, what, when, where, and why, or what we wrote down about Naomi?
Let's do this.
Okay.
And was there an interesting fact that you saw under these questions?
Well, that both Ruth and Naomi were in the same situation. They were both widowed.
Okay.
Was eventually,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting.
That's good.
And that Naomi's husband, we wrote down the names of her husband and her sons. They were Bethlehemites that moved to Moab. They stayed in Moab for 10 years
Okay.
because they left because of a famine.
Okay.
And they returned because they heard there was bread in Bethlehem, which is interesting because the name means house of bread.
See, that's good. Very good.
And there was a 10-year span that they were there.
Okay.
And whenever Naomi returned, she wanted them to call her Mara, which means bitter, instead of Naomi, which means pleasant. And she said she came back empty, even though she had her daughter-in-law with her. She didn't appreciate her daughter-in-law. And she was under the impression that God had judged her, verse 11.
Okay.
It says that she was judged by God. And then on Ruth, she was a Gentile who converted to Judaism. And once again, she was not appreciated by her mother-in-law when she, at first. That's what I wrote down.
What did she say to Naomi? The famous verse that we use in weddings a lot of times.
Treat me not to leave you, or return from following you. For where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so unto me, and more also, if even death parts me from following you.
Wow. Very good, Tayo. Thank you. Okay, so she really didn't appreciate. It doesn't appear that she appreciated what Naomi had given up. I mean, what Ruth had given up to be with her, to be with Naomi. And she's forsaken everything she has known. And Boaz says that in chapter 2. You came to a people that you did not know before. You've never known. Okay, so Naomi's situation is really bad. I mean, just think how hard it was. At first there was famine, that's bad enough. Then you have to go to the Moabites, that's bad enough, totally different. You're not with your worshiping congregation, you're not with your people. And then she loses everyone she loves. So she's bitter.
And women that didn't have a man back then were destitute.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
That's good.
Very good. Y'all brought in some very. Bethlehem was the city of bread, which is also Bethlehem is where Jesus was born. So, clear, foreshadowing there. Okay, well done, well done. Okay, what about chapter 2? Are y'all 2? Y'all are 2. Okay, what did y'all find out?
While going through chapter 2, we saw Naomi giving Ruth permission go to Boaz, to go to the field.
Okay.
She was not specific.
Okay.
And we saw God leading Ruth to where? That is to Boaz's grain field.
Okay.
And when she got there, she was highly favored because the man ordered her to be protected by the men on the field and to have food to eat and drink. And he said that they should not stop her from walking on the field. From the passage, both Naomi and Ruth, they returned from Moab to Bethlehem
Okay.
after the famine. And why?
They had no food, so they had to search for food. So
That's why they returned. The reason why they returned. Then Ruth was asking Boaz that why was he so kind to her? And Boaz said he got the reports of her goods from mother-in-law. That she left everything she had and followed her to a new land. The summary of the whole story is that Ruth was able to meet Boaz at the field, and we believe that is God's leading.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, that's why we were laughing. They said at the end of the day they got married and the lineage of Jesus was from them.
Yes, that's right.
love story.
Good job. You know, what you were saying, contrasted with what she said, really kind of shows this contrast. Naomi doesn't, she's so bitter, she's not thanking God for Ruth, but Boaz has heard that Ruth has been good to Naomi. Her reputation is that she's been good to her mother. And so others are noticing, it's obviously the talk of the town for what she has done. Okay, very, very good. Chapter 3. Poor Crystal. She's always the one they make do it. Oh, okay.
So Naomi told Ruth to take a shower and anoint yourself because there's going to be winnowing barley tonight. That's verse 4. So you have to go find where Boaz sleeps and lie down and uncover his feet. And she mentioned that it means like marriage proposal.
Oh, really?
It's a love story. It's a love story.
Like so Ruth had an idea what was going to happen. But at that night, Boaz found Ruth at his feet, and he told her that I will do what you ask, but there's another man who's closer relative, so I have to ask him first to redeem you. So if he rejects, I will redeem you. I will give you redeem. That's what he said. And he didn't sleep with her. Nice guy. So he patiently waits. And I think this is my thought because there was another closer relative. I think Naomi knew that there was another relative who has to be redeemer before Boaz. But Boaz had been showing like kindness, generosity to them. So I think Naomi liked him, I guess. That's my thought. And so Ruth stayed there until dawn. And when she left, Boaz gave her like grains, barley. curious why Boaz had to give her something when she left. She can't just left. But
Was he just giving her extra food for their family?
what was it saying in the commentary? The reason why he gave food.
Here he said maybe he's the channel of the Lord's recompense and kindness to him.
Okay. Okay.
The last verse, Ruth replied, uh, 17. These 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said to me, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. So he was wanting to show kindness to Naomi through Ruth.
Oh, that's good. I wonder if it was some kind of custom, I don't know, to the future mother-in-law. I don't know. That's good. I've not noticed that before. Anything else from that chapter? That's good. See, I would want to, when you said that was a custom of marriage proposal, that's always intrigued me what it meant. So that's a good biblical background thing you would want to look up and find out all these things about their customs of the time. So good job. Okay, chapter 4. Go, Princey.
In chapter 4, it's again about Naomi. They're talking about their husband, who's her husband, where they're from. So Naomi is kind of wants to sell and kind of financially settlement for them, like helping them. So she's like that. So she's ready to sell the land to someone, has to rescue them from that. Talking about Naomi in this chapter, I think the first chapter Naomi is very sad, but coming to chapter 4, she's very happy. The neighbors, they are. The first chapter, I think Naomi's friend, she's talking. So how they will call me, and but this chapter, the neighbors are praising her.
Oh, right.
She's going to she had a son.
Yeah.
She's not saying the grandson. She had a son. So she's
Yes.
so happy.
Yes.
So they are praising the God through Naomi. And when it comes to Ruth is, they're talking about her husband. She's a widow and she's a Moabite. She's not a Bethlehem, so she's a Moabite. Comes to Ruth. Ruth loves Naomi and Naomi loves Ruth. So they are loving each other. They are committing each other to take care of each other. And coming to this chapter, they are loving each other. And Ruth married Boaz, and the lineage started with David and Jesus Christ. And coming to Boaz is a family redeemer. He's not the first redeemer, he's the next person. So, but he wants to redeem Naomi and Ruth from their situation. The first redeemer take off his sandal, the custom wise. So
Okay.
he's ready to redeem Ruth and Naomi. He's saying that he wants to take off the name, Ruth's husband name should not go, not that way, so they should be praised. So he's redeeming Ruth and Naomi. It's picturizing God going to redeem us in future. So that's what Boaz saying. So the whole summary is it's God's love
Yes.
and covenant.
Yes.
God made a covenant with Abraham, the seed and the land and the blessing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
God, it's coming through Boaz. So
Yep.
it's a blessing. The land and seed, and Jesus is going to redeem us. That's a blessing.
Yes. Very good. Very good. So you brought it right back to that original blessing that we see. Boaz is a picture. in one family of God, because their land, Elimelech's land, had been sold, and so there was provision in the covenant that you could buy that back, and it would stay in the family. That was a big deal because God had promised land. So.
Those are the final.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, we could go on and on saying this is such a good story. It is so beautiful. And if you read it in the Hebrew, it's a beautiful, high form of literature in the Hebrew. It's just a beautiful story of God's faithful love. Now, I just want to show you a quick couple of things before we go. One thing that I like to do when I'm studying a person, like we're doing, and I learned this from the way Kay Arthur teaches her Bible studies, is to almost write word for word. So like in chapter 2, verse 3, Boaz is of the family of Elimelech. Who was Elimelech? Naomi's husband. So we see he's called, where is he called a close relative? Oh, and so I just go down from each verse. In verse 4, it says something about Boaz. In 5, in 8, in 9, in 11. If you get down here to 20, he's called a close relative in my version. And he's called a kinsman redeemer. Okay, other things that I wrote down about Boaz, just from chapter 2, is when he greets his workers, his greeting is, "May the Lord be with you." He asks his servant who Ruth is, and he tells Ruth to stay with his maids and glean. And he says, "I've told the servants not to touch you." So we see his character that he fears God. We see his character that he's protecting Ruth. He's providing for her. He tells her to get water whenever she needs it. He says, "I've heard all that you have done, and that you're a foreigner, and you've come to a people that you did not previously know." And then he gives the Lord's blessing to her. It says in 13, he spoke kindly to her, and in 14, he served her grain. It says he served her. That's unheard of in that culture for his station. And then he gave instruction to his servants not to insult her. He's protecting even her reputation, the words that are spoken to her, just as God protects us. Like Gideon was called a mighty warrior. I mean, he doesn't want anything spoken ill of her. He gives her extra food on purpose. He tells them to drop food and not to insult her. And he is a close relative and kinsman redeemer. So you could just spend a lot of time looking just at Boaz throughout this. His dear love is a picture. It's a beautiful picture of God's love for us. It's just sweet, 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 sweet. Now, what's interesting, if you go to the last verse of Ruth, chapter 4, verse 18, it starts talking about these generations. Who is the father of Boaz? Salmon, okay? Or Salmon, I don't know how you'd say it. And so I went to Blue Letter Bible, okay? blueletterbible.org. And I just went to the search and put in the name Salmon. And then it pulled up all the verses that say his name. Okay? One is Ruth 4:20 and 21. Then in Matthew chapter 1, in the genealogy, it says, Ram was the father of Abinadab, Abinadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon. But then in verse 21, Salmon was the father of Boaz by Rahab. So Boaz's mother was Rahab. What was Rahab? A foreigner that believed God, converted to fearing God instead of those around, what all those people around did, became part of the community of God's people, his mother. And so when he sees Ruth, he sees a woman like his mother that has left everything and chosen to be part of God's people. And he knows that she's left everything she knew. He knows the stories of his mother, what it meant for his mother to have left everything. And he has compassion on her. And he knows the covenant law that says you treat foreigners with love because you remember you were a foreigner in Egypt. And that's what the covenant law teaches. And so, isn't it a beautiful picture of God's love for us? He adopts us and brings us into his family and showers us with loving kindness, faithful loving kindness. And so I send you off to this week with this wonderful picture of God's love for you and hope that fills your week up. And we have one more class. I'll see you next week.
Here's